Hello lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. This is Brandy with Sunflowers and Moonbeams. Today I am doing a VR to Marlene Theresa, I think is how she says her name, and this is for her hashtag Tarot to the Extreme. And I saw this and I loved this idea, and I wanted to see what my take on it was. So here we go, let's get started. Now the first prompt is Minimalist Deck versus Maximalist Deck. So you're going from one extreme to the other. So my most minimalist deck would probably have to be Mystic Monday's Tarot by Grace Duong. Now, this deck is very simple in its artwork. Don't get me wrong, it is absolutely gorgeous. But the artwork on it is very simple, very straightforward. You know, there's no really expressions or faces on the characters. There's not a lot of stuff going on in the background. Some cards are kind of, you know, pippish. It's very simple. It's very simplistic, but it's stunning. It's one of my favorite decks, which is strange because normally I don't lean towards this type of deck, and when I saw it the first time I didn't think I was gonna like it. I'd seen videos on it and I was like, no, I will never buy this deck. I will never have it. And then one day I was in Barnes & Noble and I was just looking and I saw it, and they had a whole bunch of other decks on the shelf that I had been interested in, but for some reason I got this sudden unexplainable urge to buy this, and I did, and I was skeptical and I was having buyer's remorse before I even got home with it. But then I started using it and I fell in love with this deck. This is such a good reader for me. I get intuitive hits off of it. It's easy for me to, because of its simplicity, perhaps, it's easy for me to pick up on the messages. It's very RWS style, with a different take on it, like just a different spin on it, and the colors are vibrant. It draws me in and I love it, which is strange because it's literally the only deck of its type like this in my collection, at least so far. And it was an impulse buy and I didn't think I would ever have it, and here I am. It's one of my faves. So that is my minimalist. Now on the flip side to that would be the Dream Keeper's Tarot by Liz Houston. Now this deck is a deck that really makes me think. It's not so much that the artwork is super busy. I mean, it kind of can be. But these cards, there's so much strange goings on. I mean, look, this woman doesn't even have a head. I mean, it's odd. It's odd, and I can pick it up and do a reading. And even if I get the same cards, different days, different readings, I'm always discovering new things when I read it. Like I see something different in it. every time. There's just so much that can be interpreted. There's so much that you can use for intuitive readings. Now, I mean, it does, obviously, as you can tell, kind of lean towards the RWS, but again, with its own take. Like, look how strange. Look how strange this is. With the ship in her hair. I mean, I love it though. I mean, it is my Maximalist deck because it has the most going on for me. I mean, like I said, I can notice new things in it, in the artwork, every time I pick it up. It's just that kind of deck where there's new messages to be found, new symbols, new intuitive hits, certain things I might not see at first glance, I might see again later, or I might see for the first time later, rather. And this, because it has so much going on for me, is my most maximalist deck. Now this deck is a very dreamy, dreamscape inspired deck where literally anything can happen, like in your dreams. The guidebook to this is awesome also, but we'll get into that a different day. And that is gorgeous. Anyway, this is the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. Alright, now the next prompt that she had was daytime decks versus nighttime decks. And for me, my daytime deck is the Vision Quest Tarot by Guy and Sylvie Winter and Joe Dosey. And I probably said that wrong too because I'm awful with names. Absolutely terrible. But here we go. Okay. Very simple back, but the reason that I chose this for my daytime deck is because it gives me that light feeling. I just feel light and happy, and I don't know, I can't explain it, in a bright place when I use this deck. This is a Native American inspired deck, as you can see. The suits are renamed and they have a little keyword on the bottoms, which is lovely. The colors are nice. I love the artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. I don't know if it's because of the white borders that makes me lean more towards this if I'm doing a daytime reading or I'm wanting something to put me in more of a sunny disposition, so to speak. But this really does it for me. It is so beautiful. Like even the not so happy cards, they're so pretty. And the artwork is just so light and stunning and absolutely gorgeous, that this is definitely my pick for a daytime deck. that is the Vision Quest Tarot. Now, on the flip side to this one, my pick for a nighttime deck is New Era Elements by Eleanor F. Piper, PhD. Now, this deck, also stunning. It's more of a monochrome type of color palette. As you can see, it's all like sepia, I guess would be the best way to describe it, in color. There's no other colors in this deck. This is it. They're all renamed also. They follow the elements. Each element is representing a different group of people. And like, there's some really hard-hitting cards in this deck. And just, I don't know if it's the coloration, I don't know if it's the fact that it's hitting some of our harder topics that nobody wants to talk about or think about, or, you know, pretend doesn't exist. But this is the deck that I lean to most at night. I don't know if it's because I'm more reflective with this deck. I'm more awake at night, even though I get up at the butt crack of dawn with my kids, and I'm usually exhausted and ready for bed. By the time they're in bed, I'm still a night owl. I can't help it. And so when I get in the mood to read sometimes, and I'm wanting to read at night, this is a deck that I go to the most. Like, look at this. That is such a powerful image. Oh my gosh. And this, I mean, it's just, it's evocative, it's thought-provoking, it evokes feelings, it puts me in that nighttime space where I'm contemplative, because at night is when I wind down, and that's when I reflect on my day, and I think, and I get into a contemplative area. I also prefer to meditate at night. Some people like to do it in the mornings, but not me. I'm more of a meditate at night type of gal. But yes, this is my pick for a nighttime deck, and this is the New Era Elements Tarot. Next up on the list is going to be the best shuffle versus the worst shuffle. Now, here we go. I'm sure a bunch of people are probably not surprised to see this. This is a very popular deck. It is a very good shuffler, as I'm sure most of you are well aware. The Everyday Witch by Deborah Blake. This is one of my most favorite decks to shuffle of all time. I mean, let's not even get started on the artwork. Let me see if I can move my light. Nope, it's gonna glare either way because of the cardstock. But this deck, stunning artwork, absolutely gorgeous. I'm 100% sure you've at least heard of it. If not seen it, have it, love it, hate it, you know of it. And this deck is my favorite to shuffle. And I can shuffle overhand, but I much prefer to riffle and bridge. And I'm the type of person, I like to shuffle cards when I'm nervous or anxious or bored, just for fun, just for my hands to have something to do. And I mean, it's so easy to shuffle this deck. It's the cardstock. I don't know what kind of cardstock this is. I did not look it up. didn't read about it, but it's probably my favorite to shuffle because it's so flexible. Now, as far as it holding up, I mean, you can see there's kind of a bend in my deck, and there's wear and tear on it, obviously. But then I have used this a bunch. But it's just, if I'm wanting to just sit and shuffle a deck without particularly reading it, this is the one I go for. Oh, so satisfying. All right, now, the next one, obviously, would be the most difficult or worst shuffle. And I don't know if anyone's going to be surprised by this. You might be. It is a very, very popular deck. The Modern Witch by Lisa Sterle. Now, don't get me wrong. I love this deck. I do use this deck frequently. However, it is a pain in my side to shuffle. First of all, look how thick she is. She thick. Okay, like she thick. And I mean, I have tiny-ish, smallish hands, so it's because it's so thick, the cardstock, it's a strain on me to get my hands around it. Like, this is uncomfortable, okay? And because the cardstock is so thick, I can't get that lovely bend in the middle with my knuckle. I can't get the cards to bend like I want. And it's usually a mess. It's a mess. It's a whole big mess. I can't riffle shuffle this one to say, see, I kind of just have to let them fall. I don't like that. I can't bridge it at all. I kind of just have to let them fall. And when I try to shuffle them like this, because the cardstock is so thick and my hands are so small, it is difficult. See what I mean? Got cards popping out all over the place. It's difficult for me to shuffle. Now, the artwork, traditional RWS, like I said, just a different take on it, different color scheme, more pastel-y kind of. Lovely artwork, very inclusive, love, 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 all the good things. Beautiful, stunning deck. Gives great readings. I never have a problem with readings. It's just the shuffling. The shuffling of it drives me a little batty. Am I the only one who feels that way about this deck? I really hope not, but I'd hate to be the oddball here, but it wouldn't be the first time. All right, now, the next prompt is Confronting versus Comforting. Now, my most confronting deck, the Rebel deck, which is an oracle with attitude. And I have no idea who wrote it. I have tried to find it online. I could not. All I could find was that it was rebeldeck.com. Yeah, so anyway, here we go. Most confronting deck. Now, this deck is a deck I go to when I just need someone to be blunt with me. When I just need someone to be honest and tell me like it is. Don't need no frills. Like you see, it is very confronting. There's no... This is like the exact opposite of a hug deck. This is in your face, tell it like it is. I would compare this deck to like your best friend, like the kind who doesn't care to hurt your feelings because you know, and she knows you know, that she's telling you the truth for your own good. Like, so she doesn't care to be completely blunt about it. She will tell you off. She will make you listen to crap you don't want to hear. She will be all in your face about things, but she gets the point across, okay? That's this deck. This is my most confronting deck. This, I mean, come on now. This is not the lift you up just because kind of deck. This is the you need to get your shit together chick kind of deck, okay? And there are things on the other side also. It's not just the one side. So like, take a shot, don't take 12, take 1, okay, maybe 2, move on. Like, it's got a hard-hitting message on the front, and then it's got some advice on the back. I mean, time to let go. I mean, seriously. This is definitely my most confronting deck. The Rebel Deck Oracle. Now, the most comforting deck that I have is the Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards. And I decided to include Oracle in this tag also, even though it's Tarot to the extreme, because I use Tarot and Oracle interchangeably. It's mostly all the same to me, because usually if I use one, I'm using the other. So yeah, these are the backs. Now this deck I find extremely comforting. The artwork is stunning. It is soft. I don't know, it's soft to me. It's like I look at it and I feel immediately comforted. It's like my ancestors are speaking to me, like my guides are speaking to me, like they're coming from a place of love and trust, and they just want what's best for me, and they're here to guide me and help me however they can. I mean, look at that. Isn't that stunning? I mean, this deck is what I go to when I'm having a bad day. When I'm having a really crap day and I just need to feel good for a minute. I need some advice or an inspiring message or some pick-me-up or guidance in a way that is going to lift me up. Pretty much the exact opposite, like I said, to the Rebel deck. So yes, definitely an extreme from one to the other with these two decks. And that is my pick for my most comforting deck, the Angels and Ancestors Oracle. Now the next one is Everyday versus Every So Often. Now, this is a new one to my collection. I've had this maybe a week, maybe 2, something like that, not very long at all. I did an unboxing and a flip through of this on my channel. If you want to see it down below, I will link it in the description box. But I have been using this religiously, practically, since I got it. This is the Tarot of Oneness by Robin Voicey. And this is one of my most favorite decks of all time. Maybe even my favorite in my entire collection so far. It has even beat out the Lightseer's Tarot for me, which was my all-time ride or die favorite tarot deck for years. But since I've had this, I have had to use it every day. And I say had. I didn't have to. I mean, obviously nobody's like breaking my arm or anything, but I'm called to use it. I'm called to use it every day. It is such a good reader. I love everything about it. I love the messages. I love the artwork. I love how it pulls you into the card. You are the Action of Cups, or the Knight of Cups. You are the one juggling, okay? It's from your point of view. It's from your perspective. Like, you're the one laying in bed and you see all these nightmarish things. I mean, look, you're the one standing out in the cold here. You're the one standing there. I mean, I love how it pulls me into the card. I feel like this deck gets me. It has read amazingly for me. I've not had a single reading with this deck since I've got it. I'd say almost 2 weeks ago. I've not had a single reading with this deck that did not resonate on such a level. I mean, I would have goosebumps. I would cry in some readings. I mean, that's how amazing this is. So I have been drawn to this deck. I have wanted to use this deck every day. This is an everyday deck for me. If I'm wanting something to pull for myself, some advice or self-reflection or anything like that, where I really need to feel pulled into the card to feel it, this is definitely my go-to. And on the flip side of that, the everyday, the extreme to that is every so often. And this is my Victorian Romantic Tarot, the 4th edition, by Baba Studios. This is the only Baba Studios deck that I have. I just got this year when they reprinted it in the 4th edition, and this is one of my most coveted, most favorite decks. There is cold stamp foil, I believe is what it's called, on every card. The backs, I don't know if you can really tell. The camera is not doing it justice whatsoever. I'm sure you all know this also. This is another extremely popular deck. I am obsessed with this. I mean, I get so happy when I look at these because, I mean, how can you not love shiny things? Everything shines, glitters and shines. That is... But it's not just that. Even if it didn't have that, the artwork alone, the artwork itself. I love this deck because I've always loved art of all genres, of all time periods, of all kinds. And so this deck really speaks to me. And the artwork on it, I mean, they just picked the perfect cards, but the perfect artwork, the perfect pieces to make this deck. You can look at it and know what it is. I mean, it's just perfect. And I get intuitive hits off of it too. I can read this very easily, and it gives me very good messages. But I don't use it very often. And it's not because I don't like it. It's not because it doesn't read well, because I absolutely love it and it reads amazing. I am just, like I said, I treasure this deck, and I highly doubt, look, oh my gosh, so shiny. This is one of my favorite stars ever in the history of stars in tarot. It's very unlikely that if any damage ever occurred to this deck, that I would be able to replace it. Ever. It would just be way too expensive or way too hard for me to find. at least in a price that's affordable to me. But because of that, I hesitate to use it as much as I would if this was readily available, if this was something I could replace easily. So although I love it and I find it amazing and stunning and absolutely perfect, oh, look at that Empress card. I only use it every so often because I don't want to damage it. I love it, but I don't want to damage it. So I limit its use, okay? And that is my every so often. The Victorian Romantic Tarot. This sits in its fancy little box in a place of honor on my shelf. All right, moving right along. The next one is the Overrated versus Underrated. Okay, now I might be stepping on some toes here with this one, but I think the most overrated deck in my collection is the Wild Unknown Tarot by Kim Krantz. And everybody knows this deck too, I'm quite sure, which is probably why I'm going to be upsetting some people possibly. But I think this deck is overrated. And the reason I think this deck is overrated, now don't get me wrong, okay, it's lovely. The artwork is gorgeous. But I got this very early on in my tarot journey. I got this is probably, I want to say, the 4th deck I ever owned, ever. And I don't know if it's because I got it too early in my journey, but I have such a hard time reading with this. I have honestly only read this deck probably 2-3 times tops, and I've had it for years. And I mean, it's beautiful. The cards are gorgeous, but I mean, I don't resonate with it. I have a harder time though with animal decks, resonating with animal decks, and also pippish decks, and this deck is very pippish. See? And I think maybe that's the reason why, like when I was first starting out, I should not have gotten this. And expected to be able to read with it right away, because I was still learning the tarot, and I would get so stumped and frustrated because I would be looking at these cards. Even if I only had 1 card pull or a 3-card spread, I would be clueless. I'd be like, what? Because I wasn't getting any intuitive hits off of it. Like, okay, I kind of get this, the turtle receding into a shell. That kind of makes sense, you know? But like other things, I wasn't getting any intuitive hits off of it. I can't read with this deck. Well, I'm not going to say can't, because let's be honest here, I've read with it 2 or 3 times and then got frustrated and gave up. So, but I think it's overrated because everybody's all obsessed with it and talking about it all the time, and I'm just over here like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's so popular, but I don't see why. I mean, what am I missing? I'm not trying to be offensive. It's stunning. The artwork is gorgeous. I love the color, the pops of color, and the black and white. I think it's very well done. Very well done. I mean, look at that. That's a lot of line work. And there's so much detail, too. I mean, it's kind of minimalist, but where there is artwork, it's detailed. Lots of lines, pops of color, black and white. I mean, some people read with this very easily, and kudos to them. I wish I could, but I struggle with it. I struggle with it. So I don't understand the hype. I think maybe me getting it so early on, because it was so popular, that's the reason I got it, because it was so very popular, and everybody was recommending it to me. Oh, you gotta try this, you gotta try this deck, it's amazing, it's amazeballs, you'll love it. And I got it, and I loved the artwork, but I didn't love it to read with. And I think maybe that might have ruined it for me, and I'm hoping to one day, I don't know when, but I'm hoping to one day sit down and try to read with it again, try to learn it, try to get connected to it, maybe build a bond with it. But as of right now, it's going back on my shelf. Now, on the flip side of the most overrated is the most underrated, and I think this. Hear me out, okay? The Game of Thrones Tarot is one of the most underrated decks, in my opinion. I mean, it has a stunning little hardcover guidebook. Very lovely. Now, you're probably not going to like this if you're not a fan of the show or have never watched the show. But for those of you who have read the books or like the show or have watched the show, you might like this deck. I love the backs. They are reversible. Anyway, I think this is the most underrated deck because I never see it anywhere. I never see it in any YouTube videos except for maybe flip throughs. I never see any YouTubers talking about it. I never see any photos of it on the internet, on like Instagram or other people's YouTube pages. I don't ever see anyone using it, and I don't understand why. I mean, maybe it's because it's a limited audience, but I mean, it was an extremely popular show. I mean, very, very popular show. So you'd think that most people would have at least heard of it, if not watched it. But with that being said, I love it because I was a big fan of the show. I know all of these characters. I know all of these scenes. I can look at the card, any card in this deck, and know what is going on. I can remember the scene or the character or the story or whatever from the show, and I can automatically read the card based on my memory of that show. I mean, the artwork is gorgeous. It gives me kind of like a comic book type vibe, but you can definitely tell who the characters are, and it's got this like coloring. It gives me like this antique kind of feel, and like I said, I can read with this extremely easily. This is an intuitive reader for me. It is also easy for me to connect the story to the card, which helps in the reading. I believe helps me a lot, because if I am getting a card that I would be stuck on perhaps with the meaning in another deck, I get it in this deck almost instantly. Like I don't get stuck with this deck. And it's beautiful, and it makes me happy, and I love, love, love it. Love, love, love. Even though I was very upset and unsatisfied with the way the show ended, but that can't be helped. So this is the Game of Thrones Tarot, my most underrated deck. Now, the last prompt that she had is light work versus shadow work. And the deck I chose for light work is the Spiritsong Tarot by Marlene Theresa. This is another very popular deck. I'm sure is very well known. And it is also, strangely enough, an animal deck. However, the difference between this one and the Wild Unknown Tarot, I don't know if it's because this one has more color, or if it's maybe the keywords on the bottom, which sometimes the keywords kind of irritate me, because on a few of the cards, the keywords that's on it, I don't think of in a reading. Like, I don't associate that keyword with that card, but it's okay. The suits are all named different, so that takes a little bit of getting used to. However, I chose this as my lightwork deck because this deck puts me in that space. It's light, it's airy, it's colorful, it takes me back to nature, it makes me feel connected to the lives around me, like the animals, the other beings inhabiting this earth besides the humans. It makes me feel connected. It gets me in that space of light. And I do get good readings with this. I do. I don't always use the keywords though. And yes, sometimes I do have to look in the guidebook because I have forgotten. I mean, some of them's pretty easy, like 10 of shells, obviously water. But this deck has given me really good lightwork readings. When I'm wanting something more positive, or to focus on my good traits, my positive traits, focus on something, get out of my negative headspace, or I'm wanting something light. I mean, the animals on this are precious. I mean, look at that. Come on now. How many times do you see camels? I love this. Love it. It's very artistic. There's a lot of detail in every single card, but that's kind of Paulina Cassidy's go-to, is very detailed, pastel-y looking cards. Meerkats, I mean, come on. But when I'm wanting to get into that space, this is the deck. Like, I hate spiders, but even this spider doesn't bother me because, I don't know, maybe it's its environment, the way she colored it, the way she drew it, I don't know, but it doesn't bother me like normally spiders would. So yes, this is my lightwork deck, the Spiritsong Tarot. And last but certainly not least, on the opposite end, the extreme end of my lightwork deck is my shadowwork deck, and I'm pretty sure everyone also knows this one. This is the Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Valenza. I do have the borderless edition. I had the bordered edition first, and I loved the cards, like the artwork. Did not like the borders around it. So I got this deck instead, and I love it. This deck is always the tarot deck that I turn to when I need to do shadow work. The images are disturbing, to say the least. They're creepy. They're getting me into those dark spaces, those uncomfortable spaces, those spaces I don't want to think about, I don't want to look at, I don't want to acknowledge. This deck puts me there. It's an easy reader. It's an intuitive reader. I get different messages with the cards every time, even if I have the same cards. Like one of the other decks I was speaking about, I get something new every time. This is the deck. This is my shadow work deck of choice. And this is the Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Valenza. Alright, so that pretty much concludes the video. That's pretty much all she wrote for my version, my take on tarot to the extreme. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like. Give me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought, what your opinions were. If you shared some of my opinions. If you disagreed with some of my opinions, I just ask that you be kind and respectful in the comments. And let me know what you thought. Also, if you know anyone else that would like this video, please don't hesitate to share it. And, of course, if you are the type of person, which I'm sure you are, or you wouldn't be here, who enjoys tarot and oracle content, please subscribe to my channel and click the little notification bell down below so that you'll be notified when I have new videos up. As always, thanks for watching.